Monday, April 22nd, and the Dome Bombers podcast is back with a special episode that is number 45. I'm your host, Christian Kruger, and always joined with Neil Miejski and Brian Dorton. And we have the boys from Breathing Orange Fire podcast, Andrew and Gabe. And so it's going to be a fun time. And we're just lifelong Astros fans that love to talk about the Astros. So, boys, let's go. All right. We have a special episode tonight. We've talked about this in the off season. Gabe and I did. We're finally doing it. It should be a lot of fun. It should be way more fun than the Astros season. So I want to welcome Andrew and Gabe from the Breathing Orange Fire podcast. Guys, there's a lot out there that's crap. These guys are pretty good, and I want to promote them, and I like what they do. And so Andrew and Gabe, thanks for all of us getting on this Zoom and doing this. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise on y'all's pod as well. Thanks for having us. Looking forward to it. This. Should be fun.
Absolutely. Let's get after it, man. So what's our first topic? What are we talking about?
Well, we're going to go over, Gabe, we're going to go over the record for the week and the record for the year. This should be right in your wheelhouse. So we are 7-16 for the year and 1-5 for the week. And Gabe, since you, as I know you through your podcast, is the eternal optimist, how you feeling since you told me we were going to sweep the Nationals, bud?
Man, not great. I am not on the ledge. I'm not pushing the panic button. I still think everything is right there in front of us. I mean, we're an entire 5 games out with 139 games to play. This is not problematic. So I'd like to push back a little bit on something that's been going on in the Astros media and Astros Twitterdom and stuff like that. They're like, only 2 teams have ever started this bad and gone on to make the playoffs or something like that. Guys, that's total and complete horseshit. And you should know this because you know what? The question is not how many teams have started off 7-16 and made the playoffs. The question is how many teams have started off 7-16 and come all the way back to finish top 6 in the league. And I'm going to go ahead and say that that's not the biggest hill in the history of the world to climb. That's all we got to do, fellas. Finish top 6 out of 15 teams in the league. This is not some sort of insurmountable hole we've dug ourselves. Play 93-win baseball that Vegas had us at from here on out, and we'll win 88 or 89 games, and that always makes the playoffs. And I've got a lot of reasons why I think we can play 93-win baseball from here on out.
Man, I'm so glad I started the game. I'm going to go to Andrew first because I want to hear Andrew's take, and then I'm going to end with Neil, and then I got some stats for you, Gabe, because I know you got some for me. So, Andrew, how do you follow that with 93-win baseball?
I mean, the same way that I follow Gabe's commentary every week, Christian. So, yeah, Gabe, I would agree that a 5-game deficit with 139 games to play is far from insurmountable. But I think you're missing the point a little bit in that what your whole premise kind of presupposes is that that there are no real issues with the team and that the record of 7-16 so far is the result of bad luck, I guess, or happenstance, chance. I would argue, Gabe, that it is not all chance and that perhaps there are real issues on the team that are kind of rearing their head and they're not maybe the 93-win team that you thought they were before the season started.
100-win team. 100.
I know you thought they were a 100-win team, but the over-under, I think we said, was 92.5. So I'm trying to give you a little bit of benefit of the doubt. I would say I have a stat for you, Gabe. I saw that Fangraphs ran a projection for rest of season probabilities and outcomes for the Astros. Their 50th percentile outcome has them winning 83 games this year.
Oh, man.
Yes. They had 53% chance of making the playoffs.
Okay. At 83 wins.
Yeah. That's better than a coin flip. They said 53. I saw 53. Baseball Reference had us at 22%. As you know, Andrew, I'm a big Fangraphs man. Baseball Reference is full of crap. They don't know what they're talking about. Andrew,
your loyalty goes with the wind on that.
my loyalty is whatever makes
it's
me feel happy.
Whoever says Yainer is better, I think that is your.
That's exactly right. And
that's your go-to.
Baseball Reference has had Yainer is better for the entirety of Yainer's career, so I'm riding with them until they're going to have a 30-point higher playoff probability over Fangraphs, and then I'm throwing my lot in my Fangraphs, Andrew.
I love it. All right, Neil.
Give
me your temp check. Give me your temp check for the Dome Phone side.
I'm definitely somewhere in between there.
Shocker.
Yes, right. The gauge that I go by is normally what I see, and so stats, projections, all that stuff are nice and well, but going by what I see, it's pretty rotten, right? I mean, it's rotten baseball, and we can make the excuses of who's out and all those kinds of things, but in this league, we still make playoffs by who wins games and who loses games, and right now we're losing a lot of games, and there's not a lot of signs out there that says, hey, this is coming together soon. Man, that we're just like every series you go, well, this could be the series that turns this thing around, and every series it's not happening. And as well as I do that I'm pro Astros, and I'm still, yes, we're going to find a way to do all this, but it's clearly getting harder and harder to convince myself that this is what's happening. And that's just based off of what I see. And we can complain about pitching all we want, but look at yesterday's game where we scored 0. We can say, well, Javier, he's out and we had to pitch Hunter Brown, but it didn't make a shit who pitched yesterday if you score 0. So while I'm still hopefully optimistic, the blood is thinning a little bit. Right. I mean, my love and passion for these guys is becoming less and less relentless, as they're saying. So still in camp with them, still believe in them, but it's getting harder and harder.
All right. So Gabe and Andrew and Neil, for that matter, we are 7-16, which is documented. So if we play 575 baseball from here on out, that would be 80 and 59, and that would give us 87 wins and 75 losses. That's just playing 575 baseball. I bring that up because the old adage, you cannot win a division in April, but you can lose a division in April. We have a week left, only a week left. If we won 10 games in a row, we would be one game over 500.
Sounds
and
badass.
I don't see this pitching staff being able to string that many wins together. And to Neil's point, it wasn't the pitching yesterday. A couple more stats, because I know Gabe likes them. We rank number 1 in Major League Baseball with 214 hits, yet we are 15th in runs scored. We have a situational hitting problem that is rearing its ugly head on a night basis, on top of, obviously, what y'all documented in y'all's podcast, the first base issues, who's hashtag worse than Maldi, and then the bullpen, who cannot sustain a lead to save their lives. As Brian, our fearless Irishman, has shown up. Good to see you, bud.
We're already talking about Maldi.
Yeah. Didn't take long.
Welcome to Gabe's podcast.
Have you seen Maldi's stats, by the way?
Oh my God.
He's got an 0.59 average. He's got an 0.89 on base percentage, and he's got like a 0.74 slugging for like a 1.
So does our first baseman.
Yeah.
OPS.
Hold on.
Right.
Yeah.
Our first baseman has a WRC plus of -32.
I know Maldi's is actually, believe it or not, Maldi's is actually worse than that.
Oh,
Yes, but he's not making $19 million and playing first base.
That is true, but he's number 1 in Dusty Baker's heart, so he'll always have that.
No.
Oh man.
All right, so who wants to tackle
every time Dusty?
Who wants to tackle those random stats that I just threw out?
I want
I
to
want
take
to.
Okay, go ahead, Gabe. You go first.
I want to jump in on this, and I want to say, man, what you're talking about is actually my cause for optimism. What you just said, okay, is actually why I'm optimistic about this team. We're leading baseball in hits. I don't believe in clutch hitting. I think that whatever that is a small sample size. You can flip coins 10 times and you can get 7 heads and 3 tails, and that doesn't mean that you're like, well, unless you got a weighted coin, right? And I don't think that the Astros have a weighted coin. We don't have anyone with
They have a weighted coin, Gabe. It's at first base.
Well, that is true. So that is a problem. But I think that what you're talking about is just look, guys, we're less than 4 weeks in right now. Okay. What you're talking about is small sample size. I'm a lot more interested in the fact that we have 215 hits and we're leading the majors in hits than I am that we're 15th in runs. I think that's just the kind of thing that'll balance itself out. And as to the bullpen part of it, I'm looking here. Anyone care to guess what the median save percentage is in Major League Baseball?
No, but I know we're last in ERA.
We are last in save percentage at 25%. Think about that. 8 opportunities and we've blown 6 of them. Okay,
and we've given up 19 runs.
I know, it's amazing, and we haven't scored in the 9th inning or later. I don't think.
Still, yeah.
The median save percentage in baseball is 67%. Okay, so if we would have just done that, we'd have 4 more wins than we have right now, and that 7-16 would be 11-12. If we were 11-12, if we had just an average bullpen, would any of us need to be talked off the ledge? No, I don't think so. And I'm going to stick by this until I've got more than a 4-week sample size. Brian Abreu is good. Ryan Presley is probably good. And Josh Hader is very good. I'm going to stick with that.
2 of the 3 are good.
Until I see, and I think Presley's probably good. Presley hasn't, I guess it's held his press, like 34 or something like that. I guess it's possible that he lost the ability to pitch overnight, but the guy hasn't ever had a bad year with the Astros. And he never had a bad year in Minnesota. I mean, like, if he's lost the ability to pitch, it's possible, but I'm going to need to see more than 3.5 weeks out of that.
When do you start putting the clock on his 45 games? So when he hits 45 games, he is guaranteed a 2025 salary of $16 million if he's not on the IL at the end of the season. So when do you start putting the clock on that?
Isn't that a mutual option?
Memorial Day for me. No. It's
no, that's guaranteed. I think it's
okay.
he's vested at 45 games.
I haven't looked at that other than I've looked at Presley's ability to maybe be a trade piece if we keep stinking, but we'll get to that later.
Andrew, I think you were going to jump in.
Yeah, Andrew was going to say something.
Yeah, well, in response to Gabe, I will grant you that I'm not really down on the offense outside of Abreu at this point. We mentioned 15th in runs, 215 hits, also 4th in WRC plus as a team. The offense is good. I'm willing to grant you that there's some bad luck there. I don't think that there's a team-wide real issue with. The result has been an issue with timely hitting, right? But I don't know that that's actually a diminished skill of any sort. I think I'm willing to rack that up as chance, right? Bad luck. Gabe, where I disagree with you is on the pitching side. I don't think that's necessarily bad luck. We talked about the team ERA. The fielding independent pitching metric is also really bad. It's, I think, 24th or 25th in baseball. So that's, I guess stripping away.
Our 5th is 431 right now. Our ERA is 515.
It's less than the ERA, but it is still not good. It's still 24th in baseball, right?
431. I don't know where that.
It's 24th in baseball. I looked it up earlier today, but it's not good. I mean, it's not good. You're still in the bottom. bottom quarter of the
Yes.
of the league. So you know, I would also say I had no concerns with the hitting and the offense going into the season. What did I have concerns about, Gabe? I had concerns about the pitching, like a lot of people did. But not only that, but now you've got all these guys hurt already. You know, Framber's hurt. Who knows when he's coming back? Javier's on the IL now. You know, JV's back. That's good, but I don't think anyone had on their bingo card Hunter Brown being as horrible as he's been, you know, so far. Nor did anyone have Blanco being as good as he's been, in fairness. But you know, I don't know. The pitching just strikes me as a mess. I don't think there's anything particularly fluky about what's happened pitching so far.
Andrew, you know what our FIP was last year?
I'm gonna guess it's somewhere in the vicinity of where it is right now, since you're bringing it up.
431 exactly.
Uh-huh.
We've got the same exact FIP this year as we did last year. I want to give you a little bit of but last year we had 3.94 ERA, and this year we got a 5.10 ERA.
Yeah, there it is.
Sunday was very typical of what's happened with this team. Through 6 innings, you know, the Astros had 6 of the 7 hardest hit balls. The Astros were 0 of 6 on those balls that they hit hard. Washington did not have a ball hit harder than 95 miles an hour until they hit the home run in the bottom of the 6th. They were 5 for 9 on balls hit 70 miles an hour or less.
Oh,
Okay.
So how the hell does that happen? Like, how?
I'll tell you how it happens, Gabe. Because the Astros are also 26th in the league in strikeout rate as a pitching staff. They're not missing bats. So the more you put balls in play.
100%. 100%. We're not. Javier is not striking out nearly as many as he used to. Framber hasn't either. Framber didn't last year. That is absolutely it. But here's the thing, Gabe. I know where you're going with that, and that is, I mean, it's a fair point. That was over 162 games. This is back to your 23 games or whatever it is, right? That can change. My issue is I don't think the staff as a whole, from a starting perspective, is going to just see the light and that number is going to change anytime soon. I mean, we have this mystery injury with Javier that just popped up 2 hours before he was supposed to start. Hunter Brown, who I thought was going – I've been on record, who I thought was going to be a difference maker this year, has been a complete, utter disaster. And you have to think there's mind monsters going to have to kick in there. We don't know when Framber's coming back. JV looked good.
What do we know? What do we know about Framber's sore shoulder?
We don't know anything. He's not going. He was going. Before we hit record, I asked the question. He was going to pitch this week, and now he's not. So that's not good.
He threw a 30-pitch bullpen on Saturday, and they came on Sunday and they said they were going to see what happened, and they were hoping maybe to get him in the Cubs series, but they weren't 100% sure. But no, I agree with you, man. I don't think that this pitching staff is going to wake up and see the light. I think what this pitching staff needs to do is be replaced by the guys we thought we were going to get. And I too was a big Hunter Brown fan. So here's the Astros. If you throw out, you know, the guys that got pulled up that you did not think were going to be part of this deal, right? So I'm going with these 13 guys: Blanco, Javier, France, Brown, Framber, Hader, Martinez, Montero, Abreu, Scott, Bielak, and Presley, and Verlander. Okay, those were your 13 guys that we went into sort of the middle of spring training, figuring was going to be our staff. Right? They've combined for the following: they combined for 173 innings, 166 hits, 79 walks, 152 strikeouts, 88 runs, 82 earned runs. Okay. So even with Hunter Brown being hot garbage, even with JP France being bad, and even with the back end of the bullpen being just absolutely putrid, that's an overall ERA of 4.2, a WHIP of 141, and it's a 1.92 strikeouts to walk ratio. Those guys are like, that's what we had last year, more or less. Okay, like our FIP is the same as last year. Like literally, even with everything that's gone bad, and I just named 5 guys that we were counting on that have been bad this year, right? France, Brown, Hader, Abreu, and Presley, right? We're counting all five guys to be okay, and they've all been really bad. Even with that, that 5 out of 13, that's an average staff. That's an average staff. Like, we're being dragged down by Parker Mashinsky and Sean Dubin and Blair Henley and Wander Suero and a bunch of other guys that are not going to have anything to do with most of the rest of the season if Framber's back healthy and if Javier's a 15 game thing. Look, if the back of the bullpen ends up being garbage all year, like what we thought was going to be the best bullpen since Lidge, Dotel, and Wagner, then this team wouldn't go anywhere. This team is dead meat. But I just think 3.5 weeks is a little soon to write those guys off. I mean, as we all know, we can all look at the back of guys' baseball cards, right, fellas?
No.
I mean, look at the back
Someone
of the
was
baseball
going to say
cards.
that.
No.
But they're really
I knew
good.
someone was going to. I knew someone was. That needs to be just burned and thrown away forever. That was a horrible look. I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to kick it to Neil. I'm going to say one thing, though, Gabe. We're assuming that Blanco is going to continue to keep doing what he's doing, and that's just not going to happen.
No, he won't. He won't. No,
Because
I
there
agree
was
with you,
signs
but
of that the other night
to your
that
point,
did not look good.
Hunter Brown's not going to have a 9.68 ERA, and JP France probably isn't going to end the year with a 7.08 ERA. Right? I mean,
The way
like
Hunter
Blanco's
Brown is going,
with the 133 ERA.
Brown's going, he might have a 12 ERA. They need to sit him for a while.
I thought he might not get out of the first inning.
Yeah.
All the credit to him on Sunday. He did right the ship and get through 5.
He did.
But that first inning, man, like he threw 30 pitches before he got an out.
Yeah.
Some weak ass contact in there.
All right.
But you're right. He should probably start trying to miss some bats, to your point and to Andrew's point. I mean, that guy last year he had almost 12 strikeouts per 9, and this year he's got 8.7 strikeouts per 9.
Okay. How do we want to tackle? Because we're going to go there. We're going to go around, and all I'm going to ask, I'm going to start with Neil, and we'll just go that. If you were the GM, what would you do with this individual right now, currently? And I'm dead serious, because Gabe started this bringing up the comment that was made by Dana Brown and Joe Espada it was just absolutely horrendous. It was a bad look, in my opinion. So I'm not going to detail anything that Jose Abreu is doing other than his WRC plus for a first baseman is -32, which we talked about earlier. I have to say that a couple times for it just to sink in. Because I looked it up and I was just like, it's even worse than I thought. So Neil, I'm talking about Monday, April 22nd, as we are doing this episode with the Breathing Orange Fire guys. What would you do? Because we have an off day today. What would you do tomorrow as the GM with Jose Abreu?
So I'm going to make this declaration too, and that this is the last time I will ever be a part of talking about Jose Abreu. I'm never doing this again. I am never talking about Jose Abreu again. So this is it. So take a picture, do what you got to do, but this is it.
And I can't. And if he catches fire,
I don't care.
It doesn't matter.
I don't care.
Not a word.
No,
you don't have to worry about him catching fire. Okay.
No. Oh, I thought you were saying like he catches on fire. Like I wasn't gonna care. No, I'm playing John Singleton. I mean, he's at least is not pissing me off to the level of that other guy. Again, I know Lo Perfido, we've talked about that in great detail. Him coming in, I wouldn't mind giving it a shot, but I'm fine with playing John Singleton. And I think, Christian, I think you and I today, I think we said we saw something somewhere that said Jose Abreu needs to do the right thing and retire. And it was just like the 5th inning. It was like he should have retired right then and there. Man, I don't know. I don't know that I'm
dropping the pop-up the other day.
Brutal.
Yes.
Brutal.
Yeah, that led to a run.
Absolutely brutal.
And maybe my favorite part was the
that
fan.
was Blanco's start.
Did y'all
Yep.
see the fan getting on Abreu, and he he motioned like there's some sort of communication, and I wanted to buy that fan a dome phone.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
absolutely.
mean, I don't know that there's anybody out there that's just going to, change our season at first base. I mean, again, Abreu is just a piece to the puzzle and what the hell's going wrong with this team. I'm not saying he is the reason, but I am tired of talking about Jose Abreu and what he has not brought to the table. So I'm playing John Singleton 5-6 times a week. Don't care the matchup, lefty righty. To me, the other guy's dead, and that's it.
All right, Andrew.
Boo. Boo. No half measures. Fire Abreu into the sun. And also
Andrew,
DFA John Singleton. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Andrew. Go ahead.
just no.
That's Andrew's
Just keep going.
fire Jose Abreu in the sun, and also DFA John Singleton. We've got a 12-year track record of him not being any good. Get rid of him. Fellas, stop me when you get to a below average bat. Okay? I'm going to start saying this. Say, Gabe, that guy's below average. Yainer Diaz. That's 1. Jose Altuve. That's 2. Jeremy Pena. That's 3. Alex Bregman. I know he's been bad this year, but we don't
say
think
that's
Below
getting
average.
close.
we don't
Below
think
average.
Bregman's really a below average bat, do we?
Underperforming.
Well,
Underperforming,
wait. Can we say Jeremy Pena is an above average bat?
I
Based
said
on what
below
he's doing
average.
this
I said
year?
stop me when you get to a below average.
Below,
bat. We don't
okay.
think he's a below average bat, right?
We think he's
Okay.
average.
Well, right,
Yeah, or
okay,
maybe a little bit better. Chaz McCormick.
close.
Kyle,
Right
Hold
now.
on.
Trending
Wait, hold
downward.
on.
Trending
Hold on.
downward.
No, he's not. Hold on.
Come on.
Stuck a nerve.
If you're gonna use Bregman his track record as an above average bat, which is correct, then you have to use Pena's track record as a below average bat. It doesn't work both ways.
He was 100. He was
Pena's trending upward.
Here's my argument. He was 100 WRC plus guy his rookie year, and he was a 92 guy his second year. He's like 27. He's right at the fat part of his aging curve when he should be as good as he's ever going to be. He's probably an average bat, I think. I mean, I get what you're saying, but for his career, if you add in this year for his career, I think he's probably right dead balls on average bat for his career to date. Okay. Kyle
That's
Tucker,
fair.
Yordan Alvarez, that's 7. Okay. What do we think about Victor Caratini?
Average bat.
I
like
thought
it.
he's an average bat. I thought so too.
I mean,
Yeah.
What do you think about? So that's 8. What do you think about Mauricio Dubon?
come on.
I think he's
I love him.
probably an average bat.
Love him. Love him.
Average
Okay,
bat.
so that's 9.
Average bat.
Jake Myers,
Below average.
There it is.
maybe. So maybe that's your cutoff one. Guys, that's 9 guys that are average or better in the lineup. And I didn't talk
That's
about
fair.
John Singleton, and I didn't talk about and personally, I think Jake Myers, like Pena, might be at that part of his aging curve where he's sort of average. I mean, he's got a 100 OPS plus this year. He plays a really good defensive center field. Even if he's a below average bat, he's probably like an average regular when you factor in his defensive ability, right? So why can we not put those 10? Like, why are we messing around? Like, do you guys cuss on your show? You guys cuss some, right?
Yeah, you cuss.
Why are we messing around with John Singleton as the answer to Jose Abreu? Just get rid of both of those clowns and have a 10 guy rotation for 9 spots with those.
And who's playing first? So who's playing first in that scenario?
So you can play Caratini first. You
Okay.
can play Diaz at
Dubon.
first, and you can play Dubon at first. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've got like 3 or 4 rotations that I mapped out. One has Myers in center field, right? And you've got the 2 catchers playing catcher and first base. You can play Dubon some at second and DH Altuve when Yordan wants to play in the outfield. Okay, when you want to take Diaz out, and then sometimes Dubon plays first base. That like if you can play center field and you can play shortstop, I damn sure guarantee you can play first base just fine.
Agreed.
I mean, Dubon has played first base.
Yeah.
He practiced first base. He was getting ready to get in there last year.
Okay, Dorton, tap the brakes on your Dubon love. Tap the brakes.
Gainier
I mean,
played-
I'm with
Man,
you.
that's my man.
First last year. So I mean, I don't think that Loperfido's ready, and I'm excited about Loperfido. But the dude's can like 35 or 40% of the time, and his insanely hot streak is kind of leveled up. I want to see him go sort of dominate AAA for 2 or 3 months. And if he does that, then you can call him up and you can kind of get rid of the mix and match that I was talking about. But until then, get rid of both of those first basemen, man, because neither of them are good. They're both trash as far as MLB regulars go. And Singleton is less trashy than Abreu, but like, let's quit messing around with half measures and let's just rotate the 10 bats we have around that are like slightly below average to superstar MVP.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, Andrew, I'm going to go to you now because I went to you originally and Gabe took over. So,
Sorry. I had
Andrew,
to
tell me what you would do.
He couldn't.
Andrew,
once he
Andrew,
starts going. Yeah.
Andrew, the Astros GM, what would you do?
I mean, I don't disagree that the optimal outcome would be ridding the team of both Abreu and Singleton. I never understood why Singleton had a roster spot, to be honest.
Me either.
And I don't necessarily even disagree with playing him over Abreu now. I mean, yeah, like why wouldn't you? But I never understood really the value that he brought as a backup first base only. I guess he can DH, but never has hit at the major league level with any kind of consistency. So yeah, I don't understand why he is using a roster spot. The problem is, I mean, sure, I would love to see them DFA Abreu, but it's not going to happen because he's got a year and a half left on that absurd contract that
Right.
Crane signed him to when he was cosplaying GM
Mhm.
after the World Series title. But I don't know that that's a realistic option. The one thing that seems really obvious is that Brandon Belt is still unsigned, right? Brandon Belt could be signed. How much do you think it would cost to sign Brandon Belt for the remainder of the 2024 season? $3 million.
Prorated $1 million.
I mean, what is the problem? Like the guy's 20% above league average hitter for his career, as he was last year. You have a gaping hole at first base. I mean, come on. Like that seems to me to be the obvious move. DFA Singleton, sign Brandon Belt, put Abreu's ass on the bench.
I love it.
Jordan?
And with Bagwell's tutorialage, he could even turn Brandon Belt into maybe an all-star.
Hold on now. Hold on. So Neil, I'm glad you said that. My first act as acting GM right now is Jim Crane and I are heading to the bar. We're going to drink a glass of whiskey, and there is an ultimatum that's going to be put on the table, and that it is this decision by committee that is happening will no longer be taking place with me as the GM.
Yes.
And if it continues, then I will publicly stand down and let it be known that we're losing a fantastic GM because our owner can't make a decision without, for some reason, involving Reggie Jackson and like, again, we have said this so many times. Love Bagwell. Bagwell is not a smart guy. Sorry. Like this is not a.
That was nice.
Sorry, it's true though.
No,
like,
I said you were being nice with that description.
Yeah, this is not a secret, right? Like he's not a Rhodes Scholar, and he shouldn't be making high level decisions for a multi-million-dollar business. Period. And Jim Crane shouldn't be letting him do it. And so that would be number one. Number two is I'll probably go ahead and steal what Gabe said and trademark shooting Abreu into the sun. So I'm going to steal that and I'm going to take that as my own. And I just trademarked it. Shoot Abreu into the sun and never look back. I love it.
I'm not much of one for half measures, so I do that. If you want to deal in the real world, like Andrew tries to make me deal with sometimes, then this is what I would do seriously if I was a GM. I'd be like, hey, Jose, that back seems like it's acting up. Why don't we give you a month on the bench and jam you full of some needles and then send you down to AAA for your rehab start, and you get a whole 20 days down there before you have to call them up, and we'll go ahead and monitor that progress around July 1, and we'll make a decision on whether or not you're healthy enough to continue to play. And I'm putting air quotes around healthy.
That's fair.
You could do that tomorrow without embarrassing anyone.
Yeah.
You
No,
do
we
that
be
tomorrow
said this.
without.
We agree.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, we talked about I think we talked about that last week. Same exact same thing. Like, put him on the IL or put it just your shoulder, wink, wink, hurts also.
Yeah, just McCullers this thing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so when you go fifth out of five, y'all stole some things that I would do, and so I agree. I would IL him. Andrew nailed what I would do is I would prorate a contract for Brandon Belt because that's a stopgap, and he is a good hitter. He can't be any worse. I'm going to balk a little bit. You DFA Singleton. My God, why is he here? You put
his stats are better than Bregman right now.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Just barely,
cool.
but
that's that tells you. Does that say more about Bregman or Singleton?
Yes, it says more about Bregman.
Yeah, it does. It does, but which he's a notorious slow starter, but no, he's not. He's it's amazing how he's performing. But yeah, you send him down to Sugarland, and honestly, I would never bring him back up. But you buy the time, which we talked about last week, and I'm glad we have these guys on this podcast for that reason. You buy the time. I'm going to balk a little bit at Gabe and on the 35% strikeout rate, which is 100% correct. Brayu's doing far worse than that.
Sure,
I'm not necessarily worried. I'm not necessarily worried about the strike. I am. I think the strikeout rate is always a good indicator. However, interject some energy and athleticism and bring the kid up that batted 420 in the minors. In spring training, and now has hit 10 home runs. Yes, he's cooled off. He's still making plays all over the diamond at first base, at center field. He does a highlight either in the field or at the plate almost every night. This team needs some kind of interjection of something, and bring the guy up that maybe can interject some of that. He might bat 220. He might bat 180. He might bat 280. And he's going to strike out. When he gets on the bases, he's going to run the bases. He's going to hit the ball in the gap. He might hit the ball out of the park. We don't know until we know. And when you have those two bums that you're paying millions of dollars to, bring up the guy, in my opinion, who's been in the farm and worked his way up and earned it. I think it's sending a bad message that you're bringing up some of these bums, and I understand why from the pitching side of things because our arms are so depleted. Promote the guy and make a big deal about it and see what happens. He doesn't have to play every day, or maybe you move him around and he does play every day. But sign Brandon Belt, bring up Loperfido, play Carantini there if you want to some, and DFA Singleton and send Abreu 20 minutes down the road to Sugarland on a bus.
So what's the difference though? Well, let me ask this real fast. What's the difference in us not just releasing Abreu? Like, seriously, because we're paying him all this money?
They don't want to pay the money for nothing.
They're already paying.
He's sitting on the bench. He's doing. It's saving face.
This is guaranteed salary, right? We can use a roster spot here.
You're right. Cost, right?
It is saving face. Yeah.
That's what this is about.
It is saving face. That's right. No one wants to embarrass a guy that's had a pretty proud career, and no one wants to admit that they just made a colossally awful mistake. So if you do the whole injured reserve thing and stuff like that, and Christian, by the way, if your two choices are continue to trot out what we're trotting out there versus bringing up Loperfido, I'm absolutely positively 100% in the Loperfido camp. I just think you can give him another 2 years, or another 2 months, and you can get by with Dubon and Caratini and Diaz all sort of trading between catcher and first base.
Yeah,
and I think
that's fair. I agree.
Fine for a couple weeks.
I agree with you. I want to interject something. I call them the team up north, but but when they brought up Evan Carter last year, they interjected energy and athleticism into their lineup, and it took off. And I'm not saying Luperfido is going to be Evan Carter, but man, it really looks like we're going through the motions. Bring the kid up who's earned it, and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm fine with interjecting someone that's not absolutely awful in the first base spot, and then interjecting JV and Javier back into the rotation and seeing where we're at, because I think that gets I think that starts to get a lot more interesting. I don't know what, like, that's the thing about this team is we're a little bit of health and we're just the will to do something correct away from, you know, being back to not having any holes if the back end of the bullpen guys haven't forgotten how to pitch, right? And so the question, will we find the will to get rid of what's the most obvious and glaring problem in all of Major League Baseball? All we have to do is make a decision. We have the pieces where you want it's a Sugarland or on the bench every day. We have the pieces to fix this problem tomorrow. Will we choose to do so?
Right. Yeah. Saving face is my issue.
Okay. So let me bring up another topic.
Do you still think we're a dumb organization?
We got the Huffman internet going on, I think.
Okay. I was just, you know, Andrew and I have talked a lot about the Astros used to be the smartest organization in baseball, and now we're the dumbest. I mean, do you think, Andrew, what's your thought? Are we too dumb to understand sunk cost fallacy?
Oh, absolutely. We already talked about Bagwell and Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson, by the way. I don't know, Gabe, that I don't think it's a matter of them being too dumb to recognize that. I think, you know, all the stuff that's already been said, there's stubbornness, there's, you know, aversion to admitting a colossal mistake, there's respect for the veteran, there's all those things. But yeah, no, I mean, I hear what you're saying. If they make the obvious move, but we are talking about an organization. I'll say this, Gabe. We are talking about an organization that ignored the obvious move for the entirety of the 2023 season, which was the catcher situation, which I know is near and dear to your heart. And
I can't.
They went all year without, you know, addressing that. And not only that, maybe a little less egregious, but to me still egregious was, you know, again, not to bring up old stuff, but Dusty's refusal to play Chaz in the outfield every day.
Booyah.
And this went all season long. You know, I think, you know, Gabe and I estimated that it cost the team probably 5 wins for the season. Just those two, just the line, not the health, not anything else except for the lineup that is penciled in each day throughout the year. So are they too dumb to realize it, Gabe? I don't know. They've done some less than intelligent things over the last, you know, year and a half.
Let me ask you guys this. I mean, because I feel we're all kind of saying the same thing. There's energy, there's flatness, there's this whatever cloud over us, bad luck. I mean, things aren't going our way. I would take an Augie Garrido ash chewing right now. Like, yeah. I almost feel like, you know, give me Jimmy Leland and 25 cigarettes in there, shaking, cussing, MFing everybody. And I don't know that turns things around necessarily, but I saw when Justin Verlander was on the mound, different vibe. Yeah. You're not going to let Justin Verlander down. You're not going to do it.
Well, and he apparently came in and gave a pretty fired up talk to the team when he walked in, and it was
and then we went 1-2 versus the Nationals.
Right. And so my question, I guess, is there, or how much responsibility does this 7-16 start? How much of that does fall on Joe Espada? I mean, are we giving Joe just the free pass? I mean, where does he? accept some
This-
responsibility.
This is one of the things I wanted to bring up and talk about. Like, I thought it was, I didn't like the hire. Andrew and I were not going to like shit all over everything in the off season, but like we both were kind of like, I don't know that we turn over a World Series team, a guy who's never managed a game, and a guy who I pointed out interviewed for 5 or 6 different jobs around baseball, and nobody wanted to hire him. Right? I mean, so in his favor, he's not screwing up the decisions at 4:00, which are the easiest decisions to make, right? How to fill out the lineup card. Because I think they're probably telling him, look, he's already played Abreu less than Dusty would have, and he's already moved
Yep.
down the lineup, right?
And moved him, yes.
Yeah,
He's
for
messing
sure.
around with stuff like that. So he's not screwing up the easy stuff at 4:00. But man, the game starts like the other day. He didn't bring in Myers for Dubon, right? And we gave away a run, and we ended up with some bad stuff there. He didn't. Abreu keeps making defensive lapses. He's not pinch hitting for him later in the game. He's brought in Hader multiple times,
Weird
trailing in the game. He doesn't have an established order with the guys. It's like he doesn't seem to have a plan for what to do. And yeah, Hader's got to pitch better, but like, don't bring him in up 4 and don't bring him down 2, right? I mean, like, this guy,
Right.
if you've only got 60 or 65 bullets to pitch, which seems to be probably the optimal use of a leverage reliever, right? I mean, don't you think we'd all want him to pitch somewhere between 60 and 70 games and 60 and 70 innings? Why the hell are you pitching him in the situations you're pitching him in? Like, what good does that possibly, like, I don't see it. To your point that the team looks listless, they are not. They're not going out there and showing like they really have this guy's back. And then he's making bad in-game decisions. And not only that, but there's also an element of like, there's just some buzzers ass a lot. But like, how about Sunday? Is Whitley still up? Did I miss him getting sent down? Why is Belak pitching 2 innings in a 6-run game when Whitley's pitched like 3 batters in the last week or week and a half between the minors and majors?
They
Like,
did put he's back down, right?
They sent Forrest Gabe Whitley down the
I'm
day
sorry.
after he
Okay, I missed
pitched.
that. Okay,
Yeah.
my apologies.
And I hope he
then.
never comes back up again. But go ahead.
Well, Andrew set the over under on him recording 1 out in the majors and bet the under, so he got his 1 out. So I wouldn't have that, Andrew. I didn't realize he was down, but okay. So
They called they called Aaron Getty back up, which they never should have sent Aaron Getty down, in my opinion. But they called him back up when Javier was the IO.
What do you guys think about him? I like what I've seen from him so far. I know he's got a 11.57 ERA, but that was a little bit of bad defense by Peña and Abreu, and
he looked much better second start. He looked much better.
So. And you talk about we're missing that guy. Actually misses some bats, right? I mean, that guy. His second start, I think he had. Well, his first start, he punched out the first 2 guys he faced, and I think he had 6 or 7 swing and misses through 2 innings, and then it went really bad for him in the 3rd inning. Again, without any balls getting hit real hard. And then the second start, he was a bad defensive play by Abreu away from being 5 innings scoreless. And
he has major league stuff. He's got major league stuff. He just is going to have to figure out, being young and experienced, to get the major league head to attach to the stuff, which happens with every young pitcher that comes up for the first time. I have less concerns him moving forward, honestly, and it was only 2 starts, than I do what I've seen with Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown has been a disaster so far.
I don't understand why they immediately sent him down after that first start again.
So it was it was options. Yeah. He has options, and they were trying to use a rested arm to come up, and it's all part of the game. But Aaron Getty needs to be on the 26th man, in my opinion.
So Brian, Christian, Andrew, I am curious about y'all's take on Espada, where he is. Responsibility wise.
Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to really suggest I have a strong opinion on him just yet.
Right.
To Gabe's point, the lineup, the batting order. Let's start there. Dusty's batting orders drove me nuts, and I'm 100% acknowledge that, you know, the batting order makes a, you know, kind of a minimal difference, even like over the course of the season, of, you know, not a huge difference. But I am also a firm believer in taking every advantage that you can, you know, maximizing your probabilities in every way that you can, because over 162 games, that does make a little bit of a difference. And so I love Jordan in the 2-hole, because it just drives me nuts when you see things like, you know, lesser bats getting far more plate appearances than Alvarez. Like, it just doesn't make sense. You know, I don't want that. I want him batting more than less. Right. Right. So I appreciate that with the Spada so far. I'm willing to, you know, Gabe, I don't disagree with you in terms of the bullpen usage so far. I do think he's been dealt kind of a crummy hand with the way the starting pitching has gone. I mean, there have been games where guys haven't gotten out of the second inning, right?
Yeah.
He's gotten hammered. So he's kind of been behind the 8 ball there. I think the usage with Hader needs to normalize again, as we've discussed. I don't know. I have this thought in the back of my head, maybe I'm wrong, that he's been using Hader in some situations that maybe he wouldn't ordinarily have because of the bad start. Like, he's trying to find a spark, or he's trying to secure a win, or, you know, something like that, just to start to turn things around. And maybe that's not going to be habitual or, you know, indicative of how he's going to use him going forward. I hope that's the case. I hope maybe he's learned his lesson on that, but you know, we'll see. I don't know. I'm generally of the opinion that the managers in baseball don't influence, again, I could be wrong about this, but the managers in baseball don't influence games anywhere near to the degree to say like a coach in football or basketball. They're like, the strategy is all different, and that sort of stuff. Not to say they don't have an impact, but, and I think I told Gabe this when we were talking about potential manager hires, you know, my take on it was more, it's not so much any specific guy. What I want is just cohesion throughout the organization, right? And you know, Brian touched on this earlier, that I want a plan from the, you know, that everyone's on board with, like we had with Luno and Hinch and that whole crew, right? Where I think the analytics team needs to be involved, the front office needs to be involved, the field manager needs to be involved, all the coaches, etc., where there's a cohesive plan and everybody is aligned. And I think that, you know, not to say that the field manager should be robotic and be prescribed everything that he needs to do, but that there should be a general framework of a plan for how you use the players that the front office, you know, puts onto the roster.
That's fair. And I think, I mean, like, I'm not ready to pull any ripcords yet. I mean, like, we're seeing roster movement, and no, I'm with you, Andrew. Like, it's not a huge thing, but we're seeing, you know, if somebody gets cold, let's move them around and see what happens. And we're seeing this happen. And we're seeing things like a roster is not dependent upon a day of the week. And that was the Dusty strategy, right? It's Tuesday, so here's the roster, and here's who's starting, and doesn't matter, nothing else matters. So we're not seeing that, and I'm giving Espada the benefit of the doubt that we'll be able to see that. Now, I don't have an answer for why we keep putting Abreu at first base and putting him in the lineup. I don't have an answer for that. I mean, I'm gonna again give him the benefit of the doubt that there's probably pressure from on high to, you know, keep him in the lineup at some point, maybe, but I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't have a huge issue since Neil wanted my take, because we haven't really talked about a spot yet. You know, remember, I mean, I'm taking the Neil Gabe approach. It's 23 games in. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing burning. We're all good. But my issue with Dusty is, and Andrew basically nailed, as you guys know, my issues with Dusty was writing the lineup card and the things that he did. I don't have a huge issue with Espada. I do think he's trying to make a spark. To Gabe's point, I think he's pitched Hader in some spots he probably shouldn't have pitched in. But I mean, we're 9 games under 500, 23 games in. I mean, who would have thought that? So I'm going to wait and see approach. When I heard they were going to interview Ron Washington, I was just going to quit baseball altogether. When I heard they were going to do that, so I was hoping for a Spada because that's the biggest joke there is. But go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that. I mean, to me, that's the bigger problem that we've already kind of hinted at is, like what is going on with some of the decision making since the 2022 World Series ended? It is just
agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Whoever said that he's pitching Hader more to get a spark, I think that you're probably right. I think that that's probably true. Here's what I would say. The only reason you're doing it's a bad idea. You don't need to chase something like that at this early in the season. It's more likely to be counterproductive than productive, and that comes from an inexperienced guy that's not comfortable enough in his own skin to just be like, "Hey,
that is fair. That's fair.
I agree. I mean, and if he
what?
only pitched him in closing situations, we've seen him maybe twice this year, 3 times.
Well, we have blown 8 saves.
Yes,
we've blown 6 saves out of 8 save opportunities. So, I mean, maybe we don't blow those saves because maybe.
Well, they weren't. They he's had plenty, but they weren't on his.
Right. That's true.
And Stephen Vogt, who is a first-year manager for the Cleveland Guardians, has the best record in baseball. So I mean, figure out how that works. All right, so let's go to our last thing that we're going to kind of roundtable because this has been fun. I mean, I could do this far too long and talk about some really bad baseball and decisions that we could make to improve this team. But obviously, we all have real jobs, kids, and everything else. So, all right, I'm gonna start with Gabe because I mean it could be a while, that someone speaks after Gabe. So, Gabe, I'm gonna give everyone 2 questions or 2 questions tonight. Do you think the Astros win the division? And whatever your answer is, okay, well, you can expound on that. And then on the flip side, when is your date for cutoff time? Like time to okay, we've got to pivot to another direction, and we've got to start looking at trade pieces if things go wrong.
I believe in the baseball axiom that you don't know what team you have until Memorial Day. Okay. And I'm not saying that you pull the ripcord on Memorial Day, but if we go into Memorial Day 10 games under 500, then yes, I'm fine with doing that. I expect us to be right around 500 at Memorial Day, and that'll be just fine. If we're there and we've got guys trending back toward health, then keep it going. If not, then I look at trading Bregman for sure. I look at maybe moving Presley. I look at maybe moving Kyle Tucker because I don't think there's any way he's going to be back, and I'd rather trade him with 2 years than with 1. And I might look at trading Framber as well because this is not like a rebuild, tear it down to the studs. That still leaves you a lot of really good players on your roster, and that gets rid of some salary hole. That gets rid of a lot of salary, and you can go sign someone pretty decent at third base, and hopefully Low Perfito's an answer somewhere, and you just kind of retool for next year. So yeah, I blow it up by Memorial Day. That's my deal. If we're not somewhere around 500 at that point in time, right? As to if we're going to win the division, I don't know because I don't know the vagaries of what's going to happen out west, and we have dug ourselves a bit of a hole. I still maintain that this is a playoff team.
Okay.
And if you get in the playoffs, you're good. You're good enough to. If you get in the playoffs with how random and small the sample size is, you're good enough to win it all.
Okay. Memorial Day's earlier this year. That's about 32 games without me looking at it. So that would mean we would have to go about 21-11 to get around 5. We would be 1 game over 500 if we go 21-11 in the next month.
I mean, if we go 18-13 or something like that, that's close enough to be like sort of around 500. They're closer to 500 than 10 games under, I guess is what I'd say.
Game 54 for us would be Memorial Day.
Yeah, so
we'd be
31
Yeah,
games.
so you're third of the season then.
Yeah, 31 games. All right, Neil, I'm going to kick it to you. Those same questions.
So earlier, Gabe said we just had to be one of the best 6 teams to get in. And technically, we just have to be the best in the West. And that may not be the best 6 there is. And I know that's a loophole. So you're asking me, do I think we still make the playoffs? I'm going to say yes. And again, it's only because we're 5 games behind the Rangers right now. That's the one that I'm concerned with, getting the best record and the top seed and buys and all that kind of crap. That's obviously out the window. But if you tell me this, if the Houston Astros make it into the playoffs and they have let's just say it's a 500 record, I still don't believe anybody wants to play you.
Oh no.
And
It's,
so
this is, yeah, I agree.
And if we have gotten guys healthy and that kind of thing, pitching wise, and I just, again, I like our chances of being in the playoffs. So when is the drop dead cutoff? That's really hard, because I think that's going to be based off of our division. Where are the other guys in the division? How many games behind? I mean, if we're 5 games behind come Memorial Day, that's not the end of the world. If we're 15 games behind by the All-Star break, burn it down. I mean, yeah, burn it down. So I can't necessarily answer that second one without just saying it kind of depends where the rest of our division is. And you combine that with
Take a stance.
I'd say All-Star game then. That's about where I would go. By now, we've got a vibe, and I put this together. So the All-Star game
is around the second weekend in July.
So we'll have played 96 games at that point in time. That's a lot, right? So we'll know where we are, and I mean, if that would be the latest, I would say. Now, because again, you go back to the Jimmy Williams 2001, was it 2001 season? We were pretty rotten. They fired Jimmy and bring in who'd they bring in? Phil Gardner?
2004. Phil Gardner.
Yeah, was it Phil?
Scrap iron.
So again, that was all dictated again by how are we progressing? I don't know. I mean, I'll say, to answer your question, yes, I think we can still win the West, but where do we cut it off? It's going to depend on the West, and I'll give you an answer of the All-Star game.
All right, Andrew.
First question, no, the Astros are not winning the West. Second question, the date for the time to pivot. I'm kind of like Neil. All-Star break is kind of what I have in mind. If they go into the All-Star break, under 500, I'll caveat it a little bit by saying some of that decision in terms of what to do is going to depend on the health of the pitching staff, right? I mean, if you still have half the staff on the IL and you're still running guys between Sugarland and Houston to pitch every few days, I think at that point you might fold and put Bregman on the block and that kind of stuff, like Gabe was talking about. And I say no in terms of winning the division just because I feel like the hole that they've dug, and again, just the status of the pitching staff. I don't know. I've been teasing Gabe for the last few weeks about this being a redux of the 2000 Astros. If you remember that team coming off 3 straight playoff appearances, Bagwell and Biggio in their prime, there was really no reason to think that they were going to fall off a cliff, but they did. I mean, Wagner got hurt for the season right off the bat. Yep. Biggio tore up his knee, I think, that year. I mean, it was was bad luck. They hit the ball fine. They couldn't pitch. They couldn't close out games. It looked a lot like what it's looked like. And I'm not saying that's going to happen all season long, but like I said, generally I'm just trying to stir Gabe up by making that comparison. But
And that's tough to do, apparently.
Lima went from 21 wins to like awful. He couldn't
to
pitch
awful.
it.
Yeah, Lima.
Hidalgo hit 44 home runs that year, I think.
Richard
That was
Hidalgo
the-
was great. But here's the thing, because I think if you think you're having that sort of season, and that year they knew by the All-Star break what the deal was. I think you trade a guy like Bregman, who you do not expect to come back, but I would maybe tap the brakes and have to think a lot harder about guys like Tucker, because if you remember 2001, the Astros were back in the playoffs, right? It was a 1-year blip. It wouldn't stun me if, given the roster that they have, if something like that happened. Now, I don't know what the pitching staff is going to look like this season or going forward, but I have little enough faith in the pitching this year to say that I do not expect the Astros to win the West this year. I think the Rangers are just better.
Guys, Andrew doesn't expect the sun to rise in the east tomorrow, though. He's not going to count on that happening.
I mean, there's over a 99% chance that'll happen. It's like,
Yeah. All right. I love it. Dorton, give me answer to your questions.
So usually I'm a little bit more optimistic, but we are current now. We have what, 3, 4, we have 6 games left in April. But as it stands right now, we are in 2011, 2012, and 2013 April territory. Okay. And actually,
That's painful. That's painful.
2012 and 2013, we had better Aprils than we're having right now. Okay.
The A's are better than us right now in April.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Gabe, we nicknamed them the Triple A's right now, and they're better than we
Triple
are.
A's.
Oh yeah,
Triple A's.
Yeah, absolutely.
So usually I'm pretty optimistic, and I was hoping to see a little spark in Washington D.C. this weekend, and that was watching Presley meltdown. Saturday afternoon was pretty gut-wrenching. Like, it was one of those moments where it was like, okay, this is going to be either the turning point of a lost cause of a season where, like, this is the dominoes have started to fall and we need to just go ahead and start wholesaling in the next couple of months, or maybe we're going to see one of the greatest turnarounds in Major League Baseball history, and definitely in Astro history. But boy, that the odds are against us. But I like Neil's optimism in that we are 5 games back from the Rangers, and that's all that matters. And if my math is correct, we aren't getting our butts beat by the Rangers this season so far.
It's the only team we can
And
beat.
That's right.
We only have them,
in
and we
Toronto.
only have them one more time. Don't we have them? We have them in July again,
Twice.
and that's it.
We got them
Twice.
twice.
Yeah, it's 2-3 game series. Yeah.
July and
Right
You
before
play
the
them
All-Star
July and
break.
August.
You play them
July
13
and
times.
August.
You play them. You play them 13 times.
Right,
Yeah.
right before the All-Star break, and then we
Yep.
pick them up again in early August.
in August, second week of August. Okay,
So that's what's really
we've got 6 more games against them.
what's really interesting now that you say that, Brian, is those 3 games before the All-Star break. If you're talking like Andrew and I about All-Star break being the, cut the cord potentially, those 3 games are pretty impactful, perhaps, and where we sit going into the All-Star break. But
I totally
anyway,
agree.
Interesting.
I was
All right,
I was sitting. I got to tell you this. I was sitting in the car ride line this morning or this afternoon, listening to the radio, and this is what I heard over the on ESPN radio here locally. The last time we were this far below 500, Mike Fiers gave up a home run to Pujols. How about that?
Man, we're just bringing this thing way down.
God,
How about that? How
Some
about
lighter
that
fluid.
reference?
Wow.
Just as Debbie Downer. That's about as Debbie Downer as I can get.
Yeah.
There you go.
Speaking of shooting someone in the sun, can we do that to Fires?
I mean, I already told Andrew that I thought he should be jailed, and then
I do
Andrew
too.
said, "You can't say that. You can't say that on the radio." And I said, "Oh, you can't say it on a podcast." I said, "Nobody's listening, Andrew. Nobody's listening."
Really opens up what you can say.
Because I like to do major league resets whenever possible.
All right, I'm gonna say this is not gonna shock Neil or Brian. And Andrew, basically, I mean, I agree with him on this. But yeah, the pitching.
Weird.
See, we're just assuming. Yeah, but everyone's assuming the Astros Twitter world, X world, social media, radio. Everyone's assuming all these guys go to IL and come back and they're even better than they were when they went on IL. And look, some of them may be, but there's too many, and there's too much of this revolving door where I don't get a sense that Framber is going to be Framber from the first half of last season. I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was second half of last season. You're probably going to get Framber somewhere in the middle. However, we don't know exactly when he's coming back. We have the mystery injury now in the IL with Javier. We have Hunter Brown, who is a walking slot machine. We have JP France, who's a quad A pitcher. We have JV, who's probably going to be JV to some extent, but he's 41 and deteriorating as we speak. So, I don't think we're going to win the West. The Rangers are going to get Josh Young back. They're going to get their other pitchers back, which they've got 3 guys they're waiting on. Doesn't mean they're going to be. That doesn't mean they're going to. Yeah, it doesn't mean they're going to be the same either. But they're 12 and 11, and we're 7 and 16. And if you break it down game by game, that's not that much difference. But I don't see how we're going to just all of a sudden show up and be the Astros. There's a swagger issue, and I think the swagger issue is Bregman. He's not the same Bregman he was a couple of years ago. I don't know if that's – I'm not blaming – I'm pretty sure we all have kids here. I don't know what happened there. I don't see the same fire. It's not just on Bregman, because Bregman, as we've documented on the Dome Plumbers podcast, is one of our favorite Astros of all time. However, there is something going on through the entire thing. So my answer is I do not think we're going to win the West. And I would not wait till the All-Star break. I would say June 15th. I think Memorial Day, to Gabe's point, which is 32 games away, is a little too soon, but he's dead on. That is in baseball world. That's what you think your team is at that point. And I would go another 2 weeks. And if there's not some kind of movement and we're close to 500 and close to playing into the division, I'm telling you this right now, Bregman, he'll trade him to the Yankees. Framber, we're not going to re-sign Framber. Trade him to the Orioles for Kobe Mayo and another prospect, because we need a third baseman. Presley, see ya. I'll help pack your bags by that time. I mean, I can go down the.
What about Tucker? Do you trade him? He's the only guy you're going to get massive. He's the only guy you're going to get massive value for.
Yeah, that's true.
That's tough. That's a tough call.
I think Framber's going to get a high quality prospect and another prospect. He will, because he's a lefty and has another year of control. Now, he's not going to get what Tucker's going to get you, by no means. It's a tough call, but if you're going all in, like if it's bad, then absolutely. If we think we can field a team that can compete for the division in 2025, then maybe not. But I'm with you. At some point,
you can do both. You can do both. You can trade Tucker in 24, and you can still compete for the division in 25. You got to have to break away, but what you get back in return, right?
Yeah, but so if you're saying trade Tucker, you're saying you're saying not trade Bregman and not trade Framber?
No. Trade all them guys, but you still have the core of your team is you say, okay, we got Yainer, we got Altuve, we got Pena, we got Chaz, we got Alvarez. We
have no first baseman or third baseman to speak of unless Luperfito plays a hybrid role.
And then you got 60 or 70 million to spend at that point in time, because Bregman makes 30 and the other 2 guys are going to make 20 next year, so you got 70 million to spend.
Don't look at the free agent list that's available next year. You're not going to like it.
Yeah, maybe one of your prospects get back trading Framber and trading Framber and
Hey,
Tucker need to be a major league ready first baseman, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Like, I would trade Fromber for Kobe Mayo, who's their stud third baseman. He's a top 30 prospect in Major League Baseball, and another prospect like pretty quickly if things were not going correct. He would honestly be the first person I would trade, because I think you're going to have a ton of teams that would want to get in a bidding war for a left-hander that you have a year and a half of control with. So that would be the first person that I would send off.
So Christian,
yeah, I
you
mean,
said
I don't know.
you said
What?
you said June
June 15th would be my cutoff date.
So like I'm looking at the schedule here, and this decision could be actually before May. I mean, I guess technically right after Memorial Day. Looking at the schedule, May 13th. Okay, hear me out on this. We go 3 at home versus Oakland, and then the oddball in this deal is 3 at home versus the Brewers. Okay, so Oakland, Brewers, Angels, and then we go to Oakland for 3, and then we go to Seattle for 4. So in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 series, 4 of the 5 are division, and that last game at Seattle is May 30th. So if we can't make some headway by May 30th, you know, that there could be the sign there.
Yeah, that's fair. But the last 3 weeks we've gone 2-4, 2-4, and 1-5.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, when does it kick in? That could be it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's a really good point. That's why I said Memorial Day is the schedule relents. Look, you know, Washington's not good, but you know, Andrew and I talked in our preview. We thought Kansas City has some young, talented, interesting pieces, and they might be good in a little bit above 500-ish way. But everyone else we played, other than Kansas City, and Kansas City might end up in the playoffs, was a playoff team, right?
Sure.
Was projected to be a playoff team until we get to Washington, and we're a freaking Presley meltdown away from taking 2 out of 3 against them. Again, like I don't know if our bullpen can't get their heads out of their asses. And you know what? By the way, everyone was worried about Montero, and they were worried about Taylor Scott, and they were worried about B-Rack. But those guys haven't been a problem. I mean,
since when are we anointing? Since when are we anointing?
The guys you counted on.
Since when are we anointing Kansas City a playoff team? Remember, it's 23 games in, bud. Remember, that's what we always say. But it's so early.
No, we said
they own us.
We said beforehand.
They own us.
We said beforehand. I know Andrew and I talked about this in our over/under. We put the over on them, and they were at like 77.5. We thought they were going to be 500. They might have an outside shot being better. I said, other than Kansas City, who I think is interesting, everyone we played was a playoff team until Washington. So Kansas City might be a playoff team. I probably wouldn't bet that way. I actually bet Detroit to win that division. You know, if it's Kansas City, that wouldn't shock me. It wasn't going to be Chicago White Sox.
Was it? Is it Chicago Cubs? Is it Chicago Cubs and the Guardians this week? Isn't that what it is?
Yeah.
No, Chicago.
No,
and then
Chicago,
Mexico,
then the Mexico
against
Colorado.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a 5-game week.
And so we've got so we've got Friday off, then we've got we got Monday off today, and then we got Friday off, and then we got next Monday off.
Correct.
So we played 17 in a row, and then we have 3 off games in 8 days, or 3 off days in 8 days, which you don't like, but that was the price that was what we got for traveling internationally. So they gave us a day off on each side of that 2-gamer. And I don't know that you want to bring Framber back to pitch in altitude. Yeah,
just bring Henley back. Just let's get this Henley guy out there in Mexico. It'll be fine.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
just real quick, when was the last time the Astros beat Kansas City? They might not be a playoff team, but when was the last time we beat Kansas City?
I don't care. We're not. Very
I'll
good
give you a hint.
right
It wasn't in 23.
Did they sweep? I knew they swept us here. Did they sweep us there as well?
Yes.
Oh
They've won 9 in a row versus 9.
That's hard to believe.
July 7th, 2022, we beat Kansas City 5-2.
Awesome. All right. Well, I want to wrap this thing up and give some parting shots. I want to, again, we could talk about this all night. First off, I want to say thank you to Gabe and Andrew of the Breathing Fire podcast. Check it out for our listeners. Again, we wouldn't have them on there if we thought they sucked, because there's a lot of Astros out there, podcasts out there that really suck. The guys do a good job. Andrew, you can find you guys on Spotify and others. And where else can they find you guys, your podcast?
Yeah, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon. We're all over. Breathing Orange Fire podcast. And this was a blast. Thanks for having us. Again, we wouldn't just join any other show, to your point, Christian. So this is fun. Thanks for having us.
There's nothing like having two Christians on the same show.
And I just met Andrew Friday, just so you know. This has not been Gabe and I are the ones that have been talking over the off season.
Well, this is a 30-something year friendship, so that somehow is a compliment.
That's good. Okay. All right. Well, good.
Well, Gabe, I know Gabe and I both post the podcast on Inside Texas, and I'm sure other places. But that's how I got to know that Gabe and Andrew were doing their podcasts, and it's been fun to listen to. So, Gabe, man, I appreciate us being able to talk Astros, horns, and everything else. So, man, I think one day in the rain we talked on the phone for like 2.5 hours. And basically cursed Dusty Baker for 2 hours and 20 minutes of those 2.5 hours.
That does sound like something I would have done.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's all of us get some predictions for this week. It's a 5-game series. Everybody give your call on.
All right, so here's what I've got. I've got.
Do we even know who's pitching?
Yes, I've got right here. I've got France, Arrighetti, and then Verlander, and that's in Chicago. Now, as far as in Colorado, you would assume Blanco.
No, in Mexico.
I mean, in Mexico. I'm sorry.
Who cares?
Blanco, and then I don't know who they decide.
Hunter Brown.
That.
I'm sure
I'm
sure it'll be
right?
Hunter. Yeah,
that would be the next.
His
makes sense.
His ERA is going up.
Yeah.
I would imagine he could go up from a 9.68 ERA, but I'm not going to bet against
Mexico City. It might.
I'm not going to bet against.
All right.
I'm going 2-3. We win one game of each. One game against the Cubs and one against Colorado.
All right, Dorton.
We're 3-2. We win one against the Cubs and we sweep the Rockies in Mexico City, and there are 720 home runs hit in that 2-game. So if you're going to hit any overs, you hit the over home runs, whatever that is.
All right. Gabe, what do you got?
I want to say 5-0, but I think I don't trust JP France a whole lot.
So what do you go with?
Season turns around today.
Hey, for the 400th time this year, someone believes
that
this is where we turn it around.
This is it. This is that week.
Gabe
baby.
also sent me a text. He sent me a text Friday that we were going to sweep the Nationals. All right, Andrew, go ahead.
I am with Neil on this one. They're going to win one game out of each series and be 2-3.
Well, they've gone 2-4, 2-4, and 1-5. So I mean, I'm going to say 2-3.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you can predict anything else. But
yeah,
hey,
at least Gabe and I are over here on the winning side of this week. So all right.
Yeah.
I regret already that I did not predict 5-0. I already regret that. I mean, this team, water finds its level, gentlemen. Water finds its level. This is a good team. Maybe we'll put that on my tombstone when we're 15-30. Oh, wait, that turned out okay.
Everything I've picked has gone opposite, so maybe somehow I picked 2-3. They'll go at least 3-2.
Yeah.
Well, the one place that the internet is worse than Giddings, Texas, is in Huffman. So, Gabe and Andrew, I appreciate the Breathing Orange Fire podcast. Check them out on all the platforms. They're good guys. We'll have to do this again. And let you guys host it. And hopefully maybe by Memorial Day or June 15th, we have some positivity and everyone can throw stuff at Andrew and I, or Andrew can come on and say, we told you so.
We're doing a yard sale, or we'll host a yard sale. It's just going to be one big yard sale.
You know what we've found that people don't like? is they don't like it when we talk about the All-Stars or the Hall of Fame.
Oh my god!
So maybe we could do a first half recap in the All-Star break. We'll host you all at the All-Star break on Breathing Orange Fire. How about
All
that?
right,
Love it.
guys, I appreciate it, man. This is fun. I this is the most I've laughed in a while, so that's always good. With that being said, we always end it with Go Stros.
Go Stros.
Go Stros.